Welcome, everybody. It's Friday. It's time to talk Stargate. Glad you're here hanging out with us for another Friday live stream. I am not an AI. This is what I sound like. This is what I look like. I am not artificial intelligence. Tommy, despite what I get from a lot of my comments on YouTube, people are watching this and I try to do a good job and record my videos and edit them tightly, and I apparently just sound too artificial. I get comments that I sound like an AI.
Oh no, I think maybe your edits are too good.
Yeah, too good. Welcome. Tommy Valentine is our very special guest for hanging out and talking Stargate this week. Tommy, you might know if you've been hanging out on Stargate on YouTube or seeing any of GateWorld's coverage of the Companion or Stargate Command. Tommy, that was your jam for a long time. So I want to talk about your work on Stargate Command and the Companion today. In addition to what we're doing, what we're advertising is our big countdown of our top 10 favorite Atlantis episodes. So welcome.
Thank you. Really. Such a go down.
When was that? When did you guys start Stargate Command? That was for the official MGM Stargate site.
I don't remember when it.
Yeah, probably. That sounds right. So it was the platform for Stargate Origins, the web series, and then people could also stream in select countries, could stream all the other shows. So let's see. Origins was, I think the platform launched in late 2017, and then Origins was early 2018.
Yeah, and then we were basically tasked. Great people creating. Who friend of the show, but we would create, quizzes, long read articles. We'd do YouTube edits and cut downs, and we created some top 7 videos because 7 chevrons. And it was a really good fun time until one day we were told to stop doing that, which we didn't really realize was because MGM were trying to get sold and eventually were acquired by Amazon, as it finally turned out. But while all of that was going on and there was legal stuff and financial accounting all happening behind the scenes, we were just told to basically stop what we were doing, which is why we started the Companion, if anyone watching has heard of the Companion.
Yeah, the Companion started as a spin-off. I mean, my understanding of it, talking with you guys, with Lawrence, with other people who were working with the Companion, with Stargate Command, was you had a lot of stuff that you were working on for Stargate Command and a lot of cool ideas for new stuff. And when MGM decided to close up shop with that site, it was a real gift, I think, to Stargate fandom that you guys launched the Companion and had a place to go with all that stuff that you were doing. So we got really cool stuff from the Companion, like Brad Wright's podcast, which you produced, which I want to talk about. The Stargate AI stuff was a whole lot of fun back in the early days before AI became kind of scary, and I don't know, in entertainment quarters it's kind of distasteful. It's met with a great deal of skepticism. But this back in the day, early AI projects that you guys did with Stargate and getting the actors together for table reads, that was just wacky fun.
Yeah, that really came actually from a project we was working on with Stargate Command, where we I don't know how much of this I'm allowed to speak about, but let's just see what happens. But we basically had access to the Stargate extinction script, the Atlantis planned film that they were going to do.
Yeah.
And we basically had a bunch of scenes recorded from that, from various actors in various roles. And we were basically going to have a mixture of those actors reading it in a table read. And we'd actually commissioned a brilliant storyboard artist to do different storyboard segments of that film. And we're going to have those play over at certain parts. And then unfortunately, we had a lot of it filmed, a lot of it edited, a lot of it ready to go live. And then, the rest is history. MGM shuts down. And originally we tried to buy Stargate Command from MGM and just have it be an independent thing that we
Oh,
licensed, and
interesting.
still got it out there. And basically, the president of MGM TV at the time said, "No, don't do that. We'll charge you way too much, and you'll be handcuffed by MGM legal at every turn.
Oh,
What you should do is
yeah.
go independent instead." And we'd made all these great contacts. We spoke to Brad Wright about it. He kind of backed us and got on board, and that's how we launched the companion. And we couldn't unfortunately use that extinction script, so we instead had the idea with Brad to create the Stargate AI project, which as you mentioned, was in a very different landscape to the way AI is looked at now. It was terrible at the time. It couldn't really get a coherent sentence together. We had one of the leading AI experts at Google, who turned out to be a massive Stargate fan,
Yeah, Lawrence is
help
a
us out
massive
on the
fan.
project. Lawrence Moroney is shout out to him, because he is a huge fan, a real proper fan, and he got some amazing content together, which was basically silly and funny. And the heart of Stargate AI for me was that the actors would then read these silly lines, but in character, and it would just show how great they were as actors. I mean, you've got Richard Dean Anderson saying gobbledygook lines, but like selling it and making it sound interesting and funny. And to me, as
Where's my page? Yeah, I want to show some
as
of
a lot
this.
of the please do. Yeah, as a lot of the controversy around AI is around replacing humans and stuff. I think what Stargate AI actually did was prove that the human element is the most important, because it was ridiculous, and there he is, the man himself, RDA, delivering these lines as if he's Jack O'Neill. It was incredible. And Mark Evan Jackson, who you can see on screen in the middle there, you may recognize him from Brooklyn Nine-Nine, The Good Place, things like that. Also, just a massive Stargate fan.
I did not know Mark at the time. I just knew that he was a famous actor who was a Stargate fan. I have since watched all of The Good Place and Brooklyn Nine-Nine, and of course I know he's in so many of Mike Schur's shows, and he's just so fantastic.
He's a lovely man, and it was brilliant watching him geek out to such a high level on Stargate as well. Like, he really knew his stuff. It was great. He was kind of it was funny watching the kind of behind the scenes when we made this, because it was all just shot in a Zoom call. It was COVID time.
Yeah.
And he's kind of geeking out and, a bit starstruck of all the people that he's on a Zoom call with. But they're also massive fans of him, so they're equally as starstruck going the other way. And it was this crazy dynamic, and there's just me sitting in the middle of the Zoom call, starstruck of all of them. So yeah, it was really fun time.
That's amazing. Yeah, actors meeting actors. This is so much fun. We featured some of it. We had clips that Companion gave GateWorld that we featured here on the channel. And then the Companion's still up and going. There's still a YouTube channel if folks want to go and check it out. I'll put a link to the companion.app in the video description.
They're working a lot now on a book about mental health with Amanda Tapping. So she's partnered with them on that. And yeah, what they're doing is incredible for fans. So definitely check that out.
Well, we're watching you guys in the chat. Thanks for being here and hanging out with us live on a Friday. Bradshaw Studios, thanks for the $2. Yeah, I had a problem with your audio at the top of the show, Tommy. I apologize. I got you unmuted.
Oh, no problem.
Guys, if you've got any questions, anything that you want us to talk about or address, drop it in the chat. We're going to get to the Atlantis top 10 a little bit later in the show, but I want to do what I've been doing with folks here at the top of the show, Tommy. Just ask about your Stargate fandom, how you found the show. What is it about Stargate that made you love the show? What is it meant to your life?
So I was introduced to Stargate at a very young age. I don't actually remember how old I was, but my mum actually got me into it, of all people. And funnily enough, the reason we're talking about Atlantis today is because I grew up in very much an Atlantis kid, and I actually watched Atlantis first. I think I probably saw a handful of SG-1 episodes out of order before I really started watching Stargate. But fully season 1 onwards, I watched Atlantis first. Then subsequently went back, watched all of SG1. But at the time, I remember a few seasons of Atlantis were out, and we didn't really have it consistently on TV at a time that I remember being able to, watch by appointment. So what we used to do is buy a whole season on DVD, watch the whole season, and we didn't have a great deal of money growing up. So what we would then do is sell, season 1 to then fund buying season 2. So
Yeah.
we never like built a collection up. We just had to kind of do it that way. But I love those. I love those times of my life. So I've got that real sentimental, nostalgic attachment with Stargate to that time in my life. But I also just fell in love with the show, and then I remember watching SG1 properly for the first time and thinking, this is so familiar. And it's because I'd seen the film and just hadn't connected that it was all part of the same universe.
Oh,
I don't know why it
made
didn't
the
connect
connection.
with me from. Yeah, it was only when I
Funny.
watched like the pilot of SG1 that I was like, oh my god, this is that. And then I sort of went back, watched the film again, and then so yeah, I'd seen the film at some point in my life because I remember SG1 being familiar for that reason. But yeah, even after watching and loving SG1 and of course Universe, I still just have this bigger, deeper connection with Atlantis.
Yeah, I feel that. It's so interesting that people come into the franchise at different points in its history, right? There are a lot of folks came in with Atlantis and then kind of backfilled SG1. A lot of people came in with Stargate Universe and liked the fact that the show was so different and it hooked them, and then they went back and fell in love with the other shows.
Yeah, I have to admit, when Universe first aired, I was one of those people where it wasn't for me at the time. I think I was so wanting more Atlantis, frankly, that it wasn't right for me at the time. Since rewatching it, I've fallen in love with it, as have many fans sort of followed that same path. But yeah, I remember being, I don't know about disappointed, but just maybe I was actually a little bit disappointed. I didn't think the quality was bad. I just felt it was too different to what I was expecting, and have since watched it without those expectations in place and just fallen in love with it.
It holds up so well, doesn't it? Holds up really well with a lot of modern television, modern storytelling, which is what they were going for. Stargate started as a very kind of quintessentially 90s sci-fi. So I totally understand that the writers wanted to do a different show with SGU.
Totally. And obviously it's compared a lot to Battlestar Galactica, which at the time was very, very popular. And I was a huge fan of that as well. So yeah, I think just shifting expectations and watching it with a different lens made me really just fall in love with it.
Yeah, but what could have been a season 6 of Atlantis? And
I know.
would SGU have gotten a better reception from a certain segment of fans if the shows had run at the same time, or if we had just gotten Extinction as the Atlantis movie?
Sure. Yeah, I think that definitely would have helped. And obviously, there's lots of stories and rumors about what might have been and who was trying to save it and this, that, and the other. But at least it's back now. So
yeah, I want to talk about the new show, which is coming to your backyard here later in the year.
Right.
Before we get to that, so Atlantis, clearly your favorite show. Let's go favorite Atlantis character. Do you have one that you could pick?
I would say McKay, which is probably interesting as well because I watched Atlantis first, so had that introduction to McKay. So then watching SG1 after that and seeing his introduction on that show being very different. Yeah, that was a weird experience for me. I was like, why is he such a creep? And
always had a thing for
I guess he's
blondes.
I guess he's kind of. I think they did a really good job with McKay and Atlantis with the new perspective of how they changed him, because there's enough of that there that you believe it's the same character. But they handle his growth so well. I mean, not even just from SG1 to who you see in Rising, start of Atlantis, but even just from who he is at the beginning of Atlantis to the end. I think his development is exceptional, and I kind of like the guy that's meant to be hated a little bit. You know, he's meant to
Mm.
be a bit annoying. He's meant to get on your nerves, and I always found him the most fun. I always found that you're always gonna enjoy whatever comes out of his mouth, and yeah, so McKay's always been my guy.
I was when they announced his casting for Atlantis, I was pleasantly surprised. I thought, okay, this is an interesting character who's going to add a different dynamic. This is going to be a different kind of uh, team dynamic. But I mean, they got to sell it. The writers have to sell that he can be a sympathetic hero character, not hero, but a sympathetic protagonist that you want to watch every week. And it was hide and seek for me. It was that first episode after the pilot where he's got the turtle brooch on and he's having fun with the personal shield. And then he has this hero moment at the end of it. He uses that personal shield to save the city from the big smoke monster.
Yeah, yeah, his arc is probably the most pronounced, I would say, if that may be the right word for it. But he has a real journey throughout the show, and um, I feel like by the end of it, everyone is just rooting for him. Everyone wants him to succeed and be kind of loved and liked, and yeah, he gets there. It's great, and testament to David Hewlett as well, because clearly the writer of the show just wanted to work with him in some way, because you know it's a weird choice to bring him back otherwise, right? It's like it's not an obvious choice if you look through all the cast of characters from SG1 of who to put in that role. He's probably wouldn't be on most people's top 10 list of characters to reintroduce to the show, but there he is, and he's beloved.
Okay, we'll get to your favorite Atlantis episode. In fact, we'll get to your favorite 10 Atlantis episodes in a few minutes. But how about SG1? You have a favorite character?
McKay, no. um,
I guess
it's got to
technically.
be, yeah, it's got to be O'Neill. I think he's just, I mean, Richard Dean Anderson is just electric, right? He is absolutely magnetic on screen. He just draws you in. He's funny. He's cool. You know, you want to be him. I certainly did. I was just never that cool and never that funny, unfortunately. But um, for me, he was just the real. And again, it's talking about a change from one thing to the other. Obviously, a slightly different adaptation from the film, but to go from Kurt Russell's O'Neill to Richard Dean Anderson's, it's a big, bold choice.
Mm-hmm.
And obviously, a lot of production influence on that. In that, you know, Rick wasn't going to have it any other way. That he's going to be this kind of cool, more of a Han Solo kind of guy than the kind of more stoic, brooding Kurt Russell interpretation of the character. But yeah, I'm a big O'Neill guy.
Yeah. Do you have, for as far as SG1 goes, do you have a favorite episode or favorite season that you like to go back to? What's your SG1 comfort food?
My SG1 comfort food, again, it's weirdly anchored to like a personal memory of like watching it. And I remember being devastated that they never did anything with the Ritu, because I thought that was like the coolest
Yeah.
like new alien in the show. And I always like going back to that episode just because, what's the name of that episode?
That's show and
Um,
tell in season 2.
Show and Tell. Yeah, that is early, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, but I always thought there was just such a cool villain, and it's kind of it kind of set up this interesting, you know, they don't like the gold either, um, and I was really excited to see more of it, and I was kind of gutted we didn't, but I just have fond memories of watching that episode and being really excited by it. And that's one I rewatch a lot because it's kind of the
Yeah.
only Ritu I get.
I wonder, man, there's some of those episodes that I agree, they're great. I thought the Ritu were really interesting. They had this rebel faction that was trying to kill human hosts just to, make life harder on the Goa'uld. Uh, in addition to the sort of main government that Mother represented, who came to warn
Mm.
us. Uh, so much more potential story to do with the Ritu, and it's one of those where I kind of wonder why they didn't go back to them. Some of them I know, having
Yeah,
talked to the producers over the years, I know why certain characters or certain species weren't weren't revisited for whatever reason. You know, there were issues with the actor on set, or the
Sure.
producers saw the finished episode and didn't think it really worked as much as maybe some fans thought it worked. Maybe the visual effects were too much. I don't know what the answer is for the Ritu. I don't know why they didn't come back.
Well, the visual effects obviously seemed hard initially when you hear the description of what they look like and you see them briefly. But that's what was so interesting about them as well,
Yeah,
is that you can't see them, and
they're
that's it's
invisible
the whole
almost the
Jaws.
entire
It's the
time.
famous Jaws thing, right? It's like what you don't see and what you imagine ends up being way worse, which is why which is why I really like that. It's funny. We'll talk about it more when we get to our top 10 Atlantis episodes, but um, weirdly, I found myself drawn to a lot of the kind of horror stuff in
Okay.
Stargate, which is weird because I'm not a horror fan at all.
Yeah.
It's not a knock on the genre. It's because I get scared easily. I don't like being scared. So it's interesting that I'm drawn to some of those things.
Yeah, that's funny. I'm the same way. I don't like horror, but I enjoy a good sci-fi horror, like Alien.
Yeah,
I'll enjoy the Alien movies. I liked Prometheus
yeah.
because it was the least horror, most kind of
Mm,
sci-fi. Suns and Shadows cast in the chat says RDA could have a knee injury and still perform at a high level. Absolutely, the things that man put his body through.
yeah.
Nico Kiddo,
He's
I
just
miss the
got.
Unas. Sorry, you were going to say about Rick.
I was just going to say he's just got effortless charm for days. I was at a convention with him a couple of years ago now, the Basingstoke one over in the UK.
Oh yeah, yeah.
And I don't know if there was some bad press about that convention. You know, maybe the conditions of the convention hall weren't ideal. They've since changed venue, and there's a few logistical things that were out of a lot of people's control. But that aside, there was um, basically some issues with people getting their autographs that they'd paid a lot of money for. They'd traveled a long way to get to. And Rick was there. He was the last person there. He was there until something like 10:30, 11 p.m. at night, making sure he signed every single person's autograph that paid for it and wanted it and were there for him, and he was there for them. And I just thought that's incredible. I mean, this guy's long since retired
Yeah,
and is still out there doing those things because he knows how much it means to the fans.
yeah. I get the impression that he has fun doing it, and yeah, he knows. I imagine he's sitting there. He knows that people spent a lot of money, came a long way, waited in line a long time, and made sure to take care of his fans.
Sci-fi fans really are just the best. I mean, the whole convention community, I think's remarkable. The fact that some of these actors can, only feature in one, maybe two episodes of these shows, but fans still have so much time for them and still support them, and I think that helps it go both ways because you see so many of these people just willing to give up their time because they know what that small meeting will mean to fans.
Yeah. Did you ever, in the course of going to conventions or working with the companion, ever meet Richard Dean Anderson?
I did, yeah. Yes, I met him at that Basingstoke, and I collaborated with him on the second Stargate AI, and he also did an episode of Brad's podcast. So
Nice.
that was only via Zoom that I worked with him on that one. But yeah, he's just such a great guy. I've got nothing but time for him.
That's cool.
Yeah, it's so easy for someone like him who he was the man on that show. He was a producer. He had like a lot of influence behind the scenes, and he could have very easily developed the biggest ego. And he just didn't. He was. It really mattered to him that the show was good, and he would do whatever it took to make that happen. Whether that was um, putting himself forwards or putting other people forwards. It didn't matter to him. He just wanted it to be good for everyone. And he was, yeah, I don't think a lot of actors in his position would have been so gracious and humble.
Yeah, he's the only one in the main cast that I have not met, and I'm still hoping if
Oh,
it's on a Zoom, an interview, a convention, I'm hoping to complete my set, as it were, of main Stargate cast members.
Well, he's been doing a few shows lately, right? So, I mean, Stargate's back. It's there's going to be some sort of big convention circuit for Stargate in the future. I
I
imagine
hope so,
we've
yeah.
got to make it happen.
Okay, so that's SG1 Atlantis. We're going to get to our top 10. Stargate Universe, you have a favorite character, favorite episode, or storyline?
Ooh, do you know what? Actually, this is maybe a bit of a cop out answer, but I love the pilot of Universe,
Okay.
and I think I don't know why. I think it's because it had this weird redemption arc for me personally, in that like when I was had this kind of disappointment, I guess, when I first watched it. But then, like I said, when I took my stupid teenage expectations out of it and watched it as an adult, I was able to enjoy it a lot more. And I think I had this weird feeling watching that first episode of just like, oh my God, I'm part of the problem. I'm part of the reason this show failed because I didn't give it a chance when I should have. And I kind of disappointed in myself, but like found myself absolutely loving that pilot episode. And um, I guess maybe Eli. I think I'm just a big Eli fan as
Okay.
well. Like he's just the heart of that show, isn't he? And um, David Blue's brilliant as well. So yeah, that's probably my answer.
Good pick. Good pick. Guys, how we doing in the chat? RJB Malachor is here, Ryan. I got some of Ryan's art, and this is the very first live stream, very first anything on GateWorld where we now are featuring the art of RJB Malachor on my background here. Ryan was kind enough to send me several of his prints, which I finally figured out how to hang. So let me showcase these.
That's so cool.
Oh, I have a whole stack. So we're talking about this boy. Recognize the Daedalus. You will also see coming up in rotation on the channel.
Oh wow.
F302s.
Oh, that's incredible. Yeah.
Knocking anything over.
Oh. I like that you're going to have them in rotation as well.
And
oh, that's gorgeous. The lighting on them is so good.
His work is fantastic.
Yeah, that's
Ryan
amazing.
on the live stream a few weeks ago.
Oh my God. That's really, really cool.
So I'm very excited. I got all these framed, but of course the fronts are all really shiny and reflective. So it's a lot of fun to try and minimize the reflections on this piece in the back.
Oh, that's great.
So Ryan, thank you. Glad you're here. I appreciate it.
Great work, Brian.
Let's see. Where did we leave off here? Nico Kiddo says the Foothold aliens were from another galaxy. That would be a cool revisit for the new show. I'm kind of curious. A lot of those aliens, like the Ritu and the Foothold aliens and the Real that we saw once or twice, if there's a chance, I mean, if we get a 10 episode season for the new show, if there's a chance of going back and exploring some of those, I guess it would really have to fit into the story that Martin Garrow's telling.
Yeah. Yeah, but I think that's something interesting, right? Is where, the Wraith, the Gold, they've been explored so much. So I don't think it's going to be anything like that. I'm sure they'll talk about those things, but those kind of one-off little nuggets that we got teased with, that we maybe wanted to see more of, that's absolutely something that the new team can just bring into the new show, because it's a nice nod to the fans of the old show, but it's something they could easily introduce as a great new adversary. So it'd be really interesting to see if they do that.
Yeah, Malachor actually has the question for you, Tommy. There were a lot of those loose end episodes where things were, there could be another story. I think, for example, the Ashen as well. There could be one more story.
Mm.
Malachor asks if you could have one more, one of those storylines, one of those loose threads that had just one more episode, which would you pick?
I think it would have to just be the Ritu, just because I think what they set up there was so cool. It was just so interesting, and that the way that episode ends as well, when you kind of pan across and you see like the field full of them, and like how hard it was dealing with just one. Uh, yeah, I've got to see more of that. I've got to.
Yeah, panning across the valley with hundreds, if not thousands, of Ritu
Thousands
ready to
probably, yeah.
attack was, very Starship Troopers vibes.
Yeah, do you know what? I'm a massive Starship Troopers fan as well.
Right.
I wonder if you've just tapped into why I liked it so much.
And they're so different, right? Insectoid enemies. They're so cool.
Yeah.
Jeff says, do you have wall space for all the pictures? No, that's why they're going to be in rotation. We're going to do one at a time. And Carlinator92 says, those paintings will scare away women. Not gonna dispute that. However, I am blissfully married, so my wife tolerates all my nerdery, the models and the books and the paintings. We're good to go. Okay. We also have an unboxing to do later on the show, but let's get to our Atlantis lists. And before that, we've got a little bit more on the companion that I want to talk about. You shifted from Stargate Command, as we talked about, to the companion, and we talked a little bit about the AI project with Lawrence Moroney from Google that the casts were involved with for the table reads. Those are a lot of fun. You can go and find those at the companion right now. But one of your other big projects was Brad Wright's podcast. How did this come about, and what was your experience like as a producer?
So Brad wanted to do something with us. He wrote an article. He wrote a couple of articles for us in the early days. But he really wanted to. This was kind of his what he would joke with people, that it was during the pandemic, and it was a really good excuse for him to catch up with people that he hadn't caught up with in a long time. And we was kind of like throwing around some ideas of what the podcast could be, and we were kind of talking, and it just sort of happened that I was saying to Brad, like, I would just be interested if I was sitting in a pub in like the booth next to you talking to Amanda Tapping about your time together. Like, it doesn't need to be overly orchestrated or heavily produced or lots of different format points. I think people want to just hear you reminisce and have conversations with these people, which is why we developed the show Brad Wright Conversations in Sci-Fi. And we kind of did a few test episodes, and the kind of theory was right. It was just fascinating listening to Brad talk to his old friends, basically. And he had some great interviews, and it was a lot of fun. It was one of the things I'm proudest of working on there.
How many shows did you guys do?
I've actually got no idea. There we go. There's some of them there. Brad Wright. Conversation. Oh, you just scrolled past it.
So he did.
A little bit.
Here's Rick. Right, he did a lot of
Yeah.
a lot of the SG1 cast. He did
Yeah.
David Hewlett on. He had Ben Browder on. I remember listening to his conversation with Naren Shankar.
That was a really interesting one.
Right, he's produced Farscape. He's produced The Expanse. A lot of our other favorite genre shows, but they had worked together on The Outer Limits.
That's right. Yeah, and they were still really close. And I think Naren had worked on Star Trek as well, which Brad had always wanted to kind of work on, which is, I find, kind of ironic and funny, because he ended up just creating his own show instead, which was like, massively popular. So he never quite got Star Trek, but he just created Stargate for us instead. So we're very lucky he never got Star Trek.
Yeah, so it seems like the show didn't go on for too long. There were not a whole lot of episodes. Was that sort of a gauge of Brad's availability or how they were performing
Yeah, I
for the
mean,
companion? Because I
no, they were
wanted
performing
more.
very, very
I
well.
love the show. I wanted
Yeah,
more of those
I wanted
conversations.
more too. I wanted more too. But yeah, it was very much Brad's availability. He, not that he, running a show anymore. It was more that he's enjoying retirement and likes to play golf and couldn't always be available. And not only that, guests as well were tough to book. But it was it was a fun experience for me as a producer because I'm sure pitching people to get on podcasts can sometimes be quite difficult. But as soon as they hear it's Brad, everyone's like, "Oh, I'd love to speak to Brad again. It's been so long." So it opened a lot of doors
Nice.
and led to some very interesting conversations with people because there's this weird kind of thing of like, "Oh, it's my old boss," but it's also like they don't work for him anymore, so they can kind of have kind of candid conversations and yeah, nostalgia was definitely the flavor of the podcast. People could really reminisce about the good old days. It was really fun.
That's cool. Well, anything else on your work on the companion that comes to mind? What were your sort of standout memories beyond working with Brad on his podcast, working with the whole crew on those Zoom gatherings for the AI table reads?
Yeah, I think also what I really enjoyed doing was the Stargate celebration event, which you were a part of as well, and we kind of assembled a few different content creators around Stargate on the internet, got them all together to celebrate the anniversary. Um, Everyone got a chance to speak to Brad. He was excited to again reminisce about the good old days, and yeah, I think that was a really fun time.
Yeah, that was a fun event. It was fun for me to kind of come full circle and have a chance to do that interview with Brad after having interviewed him on set while the shows were in production several times over the years, and then kind of go away. And my life took me in a different direction. Right, I went to Scotland and did a PhD, and then started teaching, to then kind of come back to Stargate and end up interviewing Brad again. When I'm older and a little more comfortable in my skin, to be able to talk with him on a live stream like that and just say, "Hey, you gave us some awesome stuff, and thank you." That was a highlight for me. It really was, and the companion made it
That's
happen.
great. And then you spoke to him again for the announcement recently.
Yeah, yeah. Recently with Joe also and with Martin Garrow. Let's talk about
That
the
is
new
the
show.
coolest. That is the coolest way to announce that. By the way, I don't think there's any clearer signal to me that they get it, that they get the fandom, than announcing it that way with you and David. I think that was a really special way to do that.
Yeah, and that was those guys, right? That was Martin and Brad and Joe who I think went to Amazon and said, "We want to do it this way," and Amazon was like, "Okay, cool." It was
Yeah,
amazing to get to be a part of that back in November.
that really excites me because look, at the end of the day, fans don't always know best as much as we think we do. But I think getting signals like that say, look, it's in safe hands. We've got this. We know what you want. We're going to work in a really sensible way. It's just given me so much trust, to be
Yeah.
honest. I was already going to be optimistic, I think, but just seeing that, I think was pitch perfect.
So how did you feel when you got the news? Did you see the announcement video drop? Is that how you found out? Like most people?
Uh, I got a text saying to look out for something soon, which was very vague.
Oh, I know what this was about.
Yeah,
Because
and then
our fellow comrade at arms, David Reed, had you record something for our live stream that we were planning. Or was it
oh,
no?
is that right? Yes,
Were
yes,
you a
yes,
part of
yes. That is
the
what it
live stream
was.
that week? We had a kind of a whole bunch of fans kind of cycle through it over the course of 2 days.
Yeah, I was on the second day because originally I was going to record something in advance and I didn't, but I was part of that on I believe the second day. Yeah, so I sort of was guessing, but didn't want to let myself guess, if that makes sense. I didn't want to let myself be too disappointed if I was wrong. So I kind
Yeah,
of guarded myself a little bit, but
it
I had
was
a sneaking suspicion.
it was tough for David and the Dial the Gate team to go to, right? Because we had I don't know how many people. It feels like there were maybe at least 20 people coming through over the course of a couple days, if not more. And right, we had signed NDAs for Amazon. We couldn't tell them what this was about. It was just I think you're going to want to make yourself available on Thursday. Like, we're going to do a
Exactly
live
right.
stream on Thursday. We're going to have a bunch of fans. I think you're going to want to be there.
Yeah, and once the news did come out, I just had this big smile on my face. I think my cheeks were hurting for about an hour afterwards. Just especially coming from where we were with the companion, where a lot of what we were doing in the early days kind of hinged on the new show being announced, and this was the previous new show that people were talking about a lot, which was Brad's script, which was
Yeah.
kind of like loved at MGM, and it wasn't like a green light in the same way in the same world that we're in now, but it was all the signals were pointing towards it eventually getting a green light. And then kind of in a similar way that everything at Stargate Command changed for us because of some senior MGM decisions. The same thing happened with the show, and then the pandemic happened, and there was so much kind of just out of anyone's control things happening, kind of like macro things happening that just affected it and meant the show unfortunately didn't happen. So there was a lot of what we were betting on in the companion in the early days was that there would be a new Stargate, and it didn't quite happen, and things at the companion kind of shifted and changed, and so it still exists now and is still doing really well. But yeah, so there was a lot of emotional baggage, I guess, I attached to a new Stargate show. So when one finally happened, I couldn't stop smiling. I'm so happy, and now I don't even have to worry about working around it. I can just enjoy it as a fan, which is even better.
Well, you
I'm,
can
I'm
always
sure
write.
you're busy, Darren, at the
You can
moment.
always write for GateWorld. There is plenty to do.
I'm sure there is.
Yeah.
Yeah. You know what? I probably will send you something at some point.
Good. Well, that's a blast. I mean, I've been doing this for so many years, and we've been in the void between galaxies, as we say, for so many years, waiting for a new show. And now that there's a new show announced, it's a ways away. We know that it's going to be a couple of years. So we're expecting like late 2027 is the earliest this show can arrive. But it's great. I mean, there's a renewed energy. I feel renewed energy working on content, in addition to just more interest online, more interest on YouTube, more interest, click-throughs on the website, people posting comments and interacting.
I thought it was all AI on your side, man.
The stuff that I generate, yes, is all AI. I'm not really here right now. I'm sitting over there.
We're actually both just a creation of Lawrence Moroney. Like, none of this is real.
Lawrence, that guy. Okay, so let's talk about the new show then. What do you love? What do you want to see? What do you hope it is? What do you fear it is? But you've
I
had
tell you,
a couple of months to process this now.
yeah, because there was a lot of just not being able to process anything in those first few days. It was all just my mind was racing. But I'm interested in what the larger perspective on this is, because you'll have your finger on the pulse more than me. But for me, I'm really excited that they're filming in London. Obviously, from my accent, I'm from London, so it's a hometown thing for me. But at the same time, I know Stargate is so intrinsically linked to British Columbia, to Vancouver. It's so in the DNA of that show. So I wonder how most people are feeling about the fact that it's going to be in London. But for me, I'm kind of just really excited about. I'm really passionate about the film industry over in London. That's why I'm a big fan of the James Bond franchise. I'm not necessarily a fan of every Bond film, but
Sure.
just what it does for the film production community in the UK, and what it's done historically. I'm a big fan of that and that legacy. And I mean, there's a lot of great sci-fi that's been shot in England. Star Wars: A New Hope in 1976 was shot in Elstree. Obviously, no one knew it would be the biggest film of all time when it was released a year later. But just culturally, I'm very excited about a London sci-fi show.
Yeah, that's cool. I see. All right, a lot of folks, of course, I mean, we watch these shows and don't necessarily recognize where they're produced, where principal photography happens, especially if a show is largely based on sound stages. A lot of folks won't recognize, this Star Wars show or that other genre show filmed in London or elsewhere. Stargate is so iconically associated with British Columbia, of course, because they did so much outdoor location shooting in the forests in the Greater Vancouver Recreational District. But
And the sulfur pits
and the sulfur
for that
pits,
one
yeah, and the
episode.
rock quarry.
Yeah.
Martin Garrow has assured us, though, that I think this was part of the original announcement in November, is that they plan to shoot globally. So primary sets are going to be in London, but they're going to shoot all over the world. So just imagine, instead of having to go to these little corners of British Columbia, which, let's be honest, 20 years later, British Columbia looks differently. When they were shooting the shows, they had to find replacement locations because neighborhoods were going up, power lines were going up, there's more traffic on the road in the shot that you're trying to get. So they had, by season 9 of SG1, they had built the village set and did a lot of their, what they normally would have traveled and set up a little medieval town, they could do on a soundstage, and they could control the lighting, and they could control, no power lines in the background. So filming in BC today would certainly have its challenges, but because they're going to film worldwide, I mean, I'm still holding out hope that there's going to be a British Columbia unit that's shooting out there for a few weeks or months.
I'd be surprised if there wasn't. I'd be really surprised if there wasn't. I know Brad has always been a big champion of Canadian film crews, and particularly Vancouver as his city. So I'd be very surprised if, I know he's not the number one anymore, but I'd be surprised if his influence wasn't putting his thumb on the scales that way, even slightly. And another thing I know he'll be gunning for is perhaps some sort of volume wall, like we've seen in shows like The Mandalorian, because I know he's been itching to get his hands on that kind of technology. He wished he had that back in the day. So that's another thing, like you're saying, sometimes on a soundstage you don't know where they are.
Yeah, more tools in the toolkit to tell stories.
Absolutely.
So, I mean, this is what I wanted to ask you about before we came up with the idea to do our Atlantis countdown that we're coming up to in a minute. I just wanted to kind of get your vibe on what it's like to be a UK Stargate fan and a UK sci-fi fan, because Stargate has been obviously big for Canada, big for the US, but it's been kind of a cultural touch point for UK sci-fi fandom for decades as well, right? It's one of the top countries for Stargate fans.
Yeah, it's really interesting. So I don't know if there's anyone from the UK in the chat right now, but if there are, I'm sure a lot of you would have perhaps even discovered Stargate by watching it on a channel we've got over here called Sky One.
Yeah.
Because there's so many people that I kind of spoke to in all walks of life, especially when I was working at the Companion. So talking about work and things, I would be talking about Stargate all day, every day, to taxi drivers and all sorts. And people would just be telling me like, "Oh yeah, Stargate, that's the show on Sky One with the guy with the thing on his head," and they're talking about Tilk, and like, so it's seeped into the I guess kind of lexicon in a way, for like even non-hardcore fans that will just know about the show in a way that other sci-fi shows haven't. I mean, even Star Trek to a lesser degree, kind of. People know it from like the films, maybe the J.J. Abrams films, or they remember Kirk and the kind of like stuff like that. And then maybe when you start getting to Picard and some of the later Star Trek shows, people wouldn't have any clue about it. So it always really surprised me that people around England would kind of know Stargate just because of I guess the syndication deal it got on Sky One and the time of day it was on and things like that. A lot of people, especially my age, grew up just catching a handful of episodes here and there. But I guess on that though, watching new episodes live and kind of following it like that, it wasn't for people of around my age bracket. They didn't really have that. They would catch random episodes on weekends, and like me, I had my mum to get me into it properly and watch it in order. So I became a bigger fan. that it's interesting that yeah, a lot of people. I find it rarer for people that to watch the show from start to finish, like I have, to then talk about that. But then when I do find those people, it's great. And then conventions again have been amazing for that. And I've been lucky to meet Stargate fans from all around the world at various conventions that I've been to. And yeah, the UK is a strong one.
And it still is, yeah, still a stronghold. You guys have regular Stargate conventions that we don't have
Yeah,
anymore. It's not a whole
weirdly
lot of.
multiple, which is interesting. It's not even like there's one UK Stargate convention. There's like multiple, and they have to plan their weekends so they don't happen at the same time because
Mhm.
they're kind of competing for guests and competing for ticket sales. And some people can only afford to go to one a year, so they have to pick
Yep.
carefully. But it's great. I mean, we're a small country, really. So I think it's really cool that that happens. And then a lot of these conventions have very loyal um, attendees that will only go to that one every year, regardless of who's there. And I find they just have the best communities. It's kind of like feels like a school reunion kind of vibe. Like every time you go, it's yeah, it's really special.
Yeah, if you can only afford to go to one a year and you know what you like, you some of these independent conventions that are put on well, or like you say, almost regardless of the guests that they book any given year, you just know we're going back to that one next year. We're going to see our friends. We're going to hang out, maybe meet an actor or two. And for a lot
I
of
honestly wouldn't
folks,
be surprised if there was no guests announced for whatever reason. People would still buy a ticket to go and hang out and just talk Stargate
yeah,
for 2 to 3 days or whatever, because it's that kind of fandom.
yeah, I was going to say for a lot of folks, the actors are almost secondary. This is their holiday for the year.
Yeah, yeah, 100%.
I've only been to GateCon twice, but I'm already getting that vibe about GateCon that it's a family. People have been going for years, and they just want to go back and see each other.
Yeah, absolutely. We actually met at GateCon, didn't we?
I bet we did. Yeah.
The
So if you
last one in
started with Stargate
Vancouver?
Command in 2019, that would have been after GateCon 2018, and then they had COVID, and then the one that they've done since then was in 2022. I
Yes,
think.
that sounds right. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we must have
Hopefully
met
that
there.
comes back as well. Hopefully that comes back because that's the oldest Stargate convention, right?
It is.
GateCon.
Yeah, they
We
started in
officially
the year
last as well.
2000. Yeah,
Yeah, that'd be really special if that could come back with the new show.
that would be amazing. Okay, are you ready to talk Atlantis?
Yes, I am. I was telling you just before we went live that I've chosen a few episodes here that maybe aren't the first picks that you might think of the top 10 Atlantis episodes. There's some that are just gems that I wanted to mention. There's also some just undeniably great episodes that, of course, are just on my list.
Yeah.
So I'm interested to see what you pick as well.
Yeah, guys, let us know in the chat if you have any questions or comments. We're hanging out here with Tommy Valentine, big Stargate fan, formerly of the Companion and Stargate Command. I was going through my list last night. I approached this top 10 Atlantis episodes by starting with, okay, let me just grab all the ones I know are going to be on the top 10, and then I'll go through and see how many more spots I have open to fill in with some of those, maybe less obvious picks. And so I did the first pass and I'm at like 14 episodes. Like, okay, well, this is hard. I mean, there's only 100 episodes of the show, so it's like one out of every 10 makes the list, but still, it's hard to pick the best of the best of the best.
Have you done any part one, part two kind of combined things, or have you specified if it's a part
I
one,
have
part two?
one. So yeah, my personal rule for two-parters is if a two-parter has the same title, I'm going to count it as one episode. Your mileage may vary, but I'm going to, for Rising, for example, I'm going to count as one episode, which actually aired first as one episode before they split it.
It's a great episode. Is it on your list, or are we going to get to it?
It might
I'm
be on
gonna
my list.
spoil
We're
it.
gonna have to see. Okay, let's switch over here. I've got this all ready to go. I've got Tommy's list. I've got my list, and we're gonna alternate. Let's start with number 10, and we'll work our way down to the best of the best. Your number one pick. And we can talk about these episodes as we go, right? Because I imagine we're gonna have a lot of overlap. So the first time an episode comes up, let's talk about it.
I hope we don't have a lot of overlap because it means we get to talk about 20 episodes instead of 10.
Okay,
But
let's take any guesses in the comments, any predictions. How many of the 10 episodes are going to overlap between me and Tommy? How many are we gonna pick 5 of the same? Are we gonna pick 8 of the same?
I'm gonna guess as well. I reckon 5 actually. Or maybe 6. I'm gonna go 5. I reckon we've got 5 the
That
same.
sounds safe to me. I bet we've got some. Yeah, I bet we've got at least 4 or 5 that are different. Okay.
Would you like me to start?
Yeah, hit us up with number 10.
So for 10, I've gone for Phantoms.
Phantoms. Okay, maybe we're gonna have more than 5 that are different.
This is one of those ones that I didn't expect you to have because I don't think it's often spoken about as a kind of favorite or best episode in that same way. But what I really like about it is what it does differently to a normal Stargate episode. I think everyone's probably got a kind of template or format in mind for what a Stargate episode is. And I think with the kind of almost like war horror of the kind of like Afghanistan visions that we see in here, I think it's just, I think it's a really interesting episode. Whenever it comes on TV or anything like that, it's one that I'm always really intrigued to watch. I think a lot of the psychological stuff in it is really, really interesting. So yeah, it's a favorite for me.
Yeah, the first thing that I always remember when I think about Phantoms is we finally got a little bit of a more of a glimpse into Shepard's backstory. Right, so we're on the planet, we're hallucinating, and this is when Shepard has hallucinations of this mission gone wrong in Afghanistan, right?
Yeah, and it's really interesting as well because Ronan's also having visions of a wraith, right? So in his vision, if I'm remembering this correctly, you'll probably have better recall than me, but he's basically seeing Shepard as a wraith that's trying to get Taylor, and I just think that's a really interesting parallel because we see Shepard and Ronan a lot be very similar in their militaristic backgrounds, but I think just seeing that kind of earthbound Afghanistan history in Shepard, and then like the kind of wraith reality that Shepard now lives in, kind of be paralleled like that. I think it's a really cool choice and cool way to do it.
Yeah, interesting. Good pick. Jeff Suns and Shadows says, I like Tommy already. Phantoms is on my list.
Love to hear that.
Dan Ben 07, on the other hand, gives us the opposite end of the spectrum. Phantoms is on my top 10 worst episodes list. The bottom 10. Ooh, that would be a mean live stream. Maybe someday we should do the bottom 10.
Oh no, that's sad. I couldn't do it.
Not for Atlantis, not for a show that you love so much. No.
No. But that's what I love about these shows, right? Someone's top 10 worst is someone's top 10 best.
Exactly, yeah.
It's great.
That's what makes fandom beautiful. Okay, number 10 for me is, I'm actually kind of surprised this isn't higher, but it's going to be Rising.
That was
two-part pilot.
Probably number 11 for me. That was really close to making
it didn't make your list. Interesting. Okay, so Rising, we all know it's the two-parter, right? You get twice as much story. It has Jack, it has Daniel, it has the discovery of an 8 chevron address we can dial to Atlantis. We start with the SGC. We get the new team. We get Shepard and New McKay and Grodin and the great Paul McGillion as Dr. Beckett.
And Robert Patrick.
And we get Robert Patrick as Colonel Marshall Sumner.
Yeah, who's a great surname for one, but handsome, also just a legendary sci-fi actor, right? Mm-hmm. From one of my favorite sci-fi films of all time. Yeah, he's great in it. He's great in it as well. And I really love this episode. It's one of those ones I was maybe banking in the end that maybe you'll have it in your list so we can still talk about it. So I don't have to put it on my list. But yeah, it's a great pilot, and some of the visual effects in that episode are incredible too.
It is, yeah. It's a really good pilot, right? Because they have to not just tell an interesting story and introduce a bunch of characters, but they have to set up a show. So just the whole conceit of finding the lost city of Atlantis, which right in Earth mythology was swallowed up in the sea, to now have it be an alien city that was deliberately sunken in order to protect it from the Wraith attack. And now we can find it and bring it back to the surface. I love the way that Atlantis kicks off with that connection with mythology.
Yeah, Stargate's always just done such a great job of connecting the show and the sci-fi things that we love to that kind of mythology that we're already like partially familiar with, but then kind of has that, but you didn't know it was this. I mean, the Asgard is such a great example of that, and obviously the Gold as well, to be fair. But yeah, this was a really cool way of doing that with Atlantis as well.
Okay, keep us rolling. What is your number 9 pick?
So my number 9 pick is The Lost Boys.
Okay, The Lost Boys. This is part 1 of a 2-parter, yes?
Yes, yeah, but can I count it as can I count both, or is it different titles so it doesn't count?
It's up to you. You don't have to follow my rule. You want to claim the 2-parter?
Oh, do you know what? I'll stick to just this one. I'll stick to this one.
Okay.
What I like about this is I was a really big Ford fan at Star. I mean, obviously I was a McKay guy, but I loved Ford, and I was kind of devastated with what happened. And I thought this was such an interesting. It was such an interesting thing that they did with his character in the end, and the whole enzyme storyline. I thought was a really unique take. I mean, it's kind of exploring, drug addiction, right? Which is it's an interesting way of doing that. And there's this kind of you're kind of guessing the whole time. Is this a double play? Is this really his strategy? Is he just trying to get back in with the team? Is he working against the team? I kind of like that guessing, and it's cool that it's a former main cast member and hero that's now the kind of antagonist of the thing, but maybe just more of an anti-hero. I love it's all flavors of things that I love, so it all mixed in together. So it's one of the ones I thought about, and I wasn't sure where to put it on my list, that I was just like, oh, I've got to put it on there. I just love that episode.
Yeah, you want him to succeed. I mean, I was sad that Ford left. Ronan's such an interesting character to replace him with, but when they brought him back for this 2-parter in the middle of the season, you're kind of rooting for him, right? He's playing the role of a bit of an antagonist, capturing and drugging the team, kind of forcing them to go on this raid. But you're kind of rooting for Ford and his new compadres, right? Jacked up on Wraith enzyme to, get a victory.
Yeah. And there's a part of you as well, or there was a part of me anyway, that kind of just wanted, to bring him under your wing a little bit and say, come on, Ford, I get what you're trying to do, but this isn't quite right. Like you're trying to give him a little shake and say, come on, you're almost there. You've almost got it. And and I don't know, I've seen some of the chat saying that that Hive was better, and arguably you are right. I can't see the name from here. You might have to read it, Darren. My eyes are terrible. But
oh yeah, Dan Van 07 says I prefer the Hive.
Yeah. But there's something about the Lost Boys when you first see that. I like the drama a bit more, and I guess the action is a lot more exciting after that. But I kind of like the tension in the Lost Boys.
That's kind of the balance of this 2-parter, right? It's kind of a character piece for the setup in part 1, and then part 2, we're trapped on the Hive. We got to get out. We got to kind of shoot our way out. And there's Daedalus shows up, so it's more of a whiz bang mid-season premiere.
Yeah.
Okay, my number 9, also The Lost Tribe. This is the second half of season 5's mid-season 2-parter. I'm curious if this is going to make it on your list. The only reason it's not higher on my list, this is part 2 of Daniel Jackson showing up. Daniel and McKay get captured. And we discover in the Lost Tribe that the people who have captured them are living Asgard. Still alive.
That's right.
Not the nicest Asgard, let's be honest. Not the nicest Asgard in the world. But the only reason
It
this
looked
doesn't
cool,
rank
right?
higher for me is because so much of it is focused on a character who is not a main character on Atlantis. I love Daniel. I love the Asgard, but Daniel's not a main character on Atlantis. Otherwise, this would have been higher for me.
Yeah, that's a really, really good point. And perhaps something we'll talk about later in the lists as well. But yeah, I think that this is really in the later seasons of Atlantis is when you really get the sense that it's one writer's room writing kind of both shows and working on both shows at the same time, and they kind of chopped and changed a little bit more. And I really liked that. But I think that's a really fair point about it not being a main Atlantis character.
But it sets up so much. I mean, it ends up being so important to the overall franchise mythology. It's because of this episode that it's possible that Asgard might come back in some way, shape, or form in the new series.
Yeah, yeah, that's so true. And they just look so cool, right? Like it was just such a great visual. Those kind of armored suits, are they? Or how to
Yeah.
describe them? But yeah,
Yeah, the armored suits and also the ships. The ships that just sort of
yeah,
jump in out of nowhere, fly at 1,000,000 miles an hour straight through Atlantis' shield like it's nothing. And then they drop down and they drill their way into Janus' lab. It's I want to see more of that tech. I want to see more of the ships that they have.
yeah, yeah, for sure. God, there's so many questions to be answered.
Okay, ready to move on? Number 8?
Yeah. So interestingly, my number 8 is First Contact.
Okay. Very close. This is part 1.
I think
Tell us
I
about
think
what
the
you love
theme
about
is.
First Contact.
I think I like the character stuff. I think I really like the kind of plotty set up tension character stuff.
Seeing a
Um,
pattern develop, yeah.
yeah, yeah, and it's a subconscious pattern as well because I didn't even realize it at first. But yeah, I think obviously this is when Daniel first arrives, and I think there's just a lot of cool questions that are being asked, kind of philosophically, and then kind of just genuinely about responsibility and control, and yeah, I just love it. I think it's a really really great episode, and I think Michael Shanks is brilliant just in general. So yeah, loved
Yeah,
seeing
yeah,
him, and
don't get me
again,
wrong. I
I get
loved seeing him on the show.
yeah, and I think it's that thing of where in my mind, like I'm an Atlantis guy, but I love SG1. I really like when the SG1s just dip into. I feel like they're dipping into my show. They're like coming over to my house to say hi. It's
It's
like
the
this weird
crossover.
psychology.
We love a good
Yeah,
crossover.
yeah. Like you've got to love a good crossover. So yeah, that's why it's my number 8.
Yeah, and Daniel has been trying to get to Atlantis for so long and has been thwarted in so many different ways. It's just a blast to just see him beam down with a big smile on his face.
That was the great part in Rising as well, when he's still to the last minute. Like, are you sure I can't go? Are you
Yeah,
sure it can't be me? That was a cool character touch.
yeah, for sure. Okay, chat, how are we doing over here? Suits reused for Stargate Universe. Yes. The suits were reused for the Destiny suits on Stargate Universe, apparently because they cost so much. And when
Oh
Atlantis
wow.
ended, they were not able to amortize over more episodes, so they repurposed everything but the helmet, right? Helmets are different, but from the neck down, basically, they repurposed, which has some really interesting implications for lore. Maybe Destiny passed through Pegasus. I think we know that it did. I think we see the star map on Stargate Universe of Destiny's path. I think we saw that it passed through Pegasus early in its journey. So maybe there were ancients on board at some point that got involved in a little off-world mischief and lost their suits. And the Asgard came along millions of years later and found them and fixed them up.
That's really I didn't know that about the star path. That's really cool.
Okay, anything else on First Contact? It's a great episode. It's a great setup. It doesn't surprise me that we both have both halves of that two-parter on here.
That's really funny as well.
Because
Yeah.
that's yeah,
No, but
these
that's it.
these season 5 episodes like First Contact and Lost Tribe and the bad guys from the Daedalus variations. That's really what makes my heart hurt that we didn't get a season 6. Is we didn't get to
Yeah,
see, you know, the Asgard, the evil Asgard, the so-called Vanir, more than we did.
agreed.
All right, number 8 for me is going to be The Siege Part 3. This is the second season premiere. So this is, right, we left off season 1, big cliffhangers, everybody's in mortal danger, the Wraith are laying siege to Atlantis. Season 2 is when the Daedalus shows up, we get the ZPM. Ford goes off on his new journey after getting messed up by the infusion of the Wraith enzyme, and then we trick the Wraith by pretending to nuke the city. What'd you think of
Yeah,
the siege as a whole, but this payoff in particular?
the siege as a whole, I love. I really, really love. But I think this payoff is really, really cool as well. I love when shows just do the like a clever trick or something like that, as opposed to just outright, attrition wins the day kind of thing. I think it's always a little bit more fun when there's a little bit of subterfuge going on. And yes, look at that visual alone is fantastic, isn't it?
This is a basic cable budget. What they did with the Siege of Atlantis is astounding. It is gorgeous.
Yeah, still holds up. Really does.
Yeah, for sure.
I love the Daedalus too. I love every time the Daedalus comes around in Atlantis. I think it's always a fun time. Always something cool going on.
Yeah, this is the episode we meet Mitch Pileggi as Colonel Caldwell.
Yeah, he had to. I think there was gaps in him being on the show because he was doing something else at the time, right? I can't remember what he was working on, but I feel like they couldn't get him as much as they wanted him.
Yeah, they got him for a good chunk, at least in season 2. I want to say he was in 6 or 7, but then he was gone
Right.
for a while.
Yeah, he's a lovely guy as well, by the way, Mitch. He's a super, super nice guy. It always got the sense he was surprised by the love he still gets for Stargate as opposed to some of the other shows he's been on. But
Yeah,
that's Stargate fans for you.
he was. I had the chance to interview him during season 2 filming, so before his character had made his on-screen appearance. In his trailer, and we were David and I were escorted over to his trailer, and the PR person very politely suggested, Mitch has been asked about a certain other sci-fi show that he did quite a lot. He's maybe done talking about it. Let's not, not ask too many questions about a previous science fiction show that he was on. And he brought it up. He brought it up in order to praise Stargate and Stargate's writers for what they were giving him to do as, the captain of his own spaceship. He was just having a blast.
Oh, that's great. I love that. Ready for my number 7?
Yeah, I'm just catching up on chat here. Go ahead and give us your number 7, though.
So this is one I don't think will be on many other people's top 10 lists. Maybe in some people's top 10 worst episodes, again, I don't know. But it's The Game.
Oh, The Game.
It's such a fun episode. It's so
with
silly
Laura Harris.
It's so kind of like silly and weird and out there, and it sticks out a little bit sometimes on a rewatch, but it for the right reasons for me. I just find it such a fun kind of sci-fi premise. Like it's a great like if you took out all the context and lore of what you know about Stargate and just took the plot of this episode as like a short story or something like that, it's a really cool, interesting story. It's kind of got like an Ender's Game vibe to it. But I think when you add all of that context and Stargate history back into it, and you've got the kind of battling egos of science versus military and McKay versus Shepard, it's so much fun. And I think it really teaches, like, there's a bit of a lesson to it, right? About like the cost of war, and like the relentless kind of unyielding first stance that both these countries have, and then they kind of, again, another bit of subterfuge, a bit of a trick to kind of save the day at the end. But I just love this episode.
Yeah, it's such a great idea. I think I feel like season 3 is filled with some really great story ideas, some really great sci-fi premises. The writers' room was just sort of clicking on all cylinders. The game is one. There's another one that we'll get to in a minute on my list. But yeah, this is Shepard and McKay find this what looks like an ancient video game left behind by the Lanteans, and they start playing it. Only to find out later they are controlling real people. There is a planet out there that they're sending commands to. I thought this was a fun one.
Yeah, it's super fun. It's the sort of episode you probably wouldn't get in a 10 episode season now, which is kind of sad. Like these are the kind of episodes I think you lose out on because you kind of want every episode to push the story forward in some meaningful way. Which is probably the saddest thing about a 10 episode season, sadly, because it's episodes like this that maybe aren't everyone's favorite, but there's some people's seventh favorite. So
yeah,
there you go.
I agree completely. And what would you think of McKay if you only saw, I mean, if you strip down your rewatch to just say season premieres, mid-season two-parters, season finales, those big episodes that drive the plot along, and you get 10 of those in a year, what would you think of a character like Rodney McKay? All you see him doing is stressing and yelling and trying to fix something.
That's so true, and there's actually moments in this episode where his ego is just kind of checked a bit. I mean, ultimately the episode ends with them still playing a game of chess, right? Because they haven't quite settled the differences. But it's an important beat along the way, right? They're still that they take something away from it. Their characters grow from where they are at the start of the episode to the end. So yeah, I think you I think you miss a lot. That's a great image of his painting behind him. And the country's flag is just the Canadian flag, but his face instead of the maple leaf as well, which is great.
That's so good. Yeah. All right, good pick. I like that. I'm glad that we both grabbed some that are a little less obvious. So let's see. When is mine going to come up? Number 7 for me. Just checking my list. Okay, this is another big one. Number 7 is going to be The Return Part 2. And not to knock the first half, I could have put both parts on here because they do share an episode title. But I'm thinking of The Return Part 2, particularly in the team's right. Part 1, they're back on their feet. They're back on their heels. The Ancients kind of kick them out of Atlantis. They say, "Hey, it's there might come a time when humans from Earth gets come back. That time is not today. Thank you very much. Goodbye." And they have to go back to Earth and find what their life is like without living in Atlantis. But part 2 is when they make their big comeback. The city's taken over by the replicators. They steal a puddle jumper and come back and save the day. And we've got Woolsey and O'Neill in here, Robert Picardo and Richard Dean Anderson guest starring. This is kind of classic for me. This is kind of quintessential Atlantis storytelling because it's the way that the story is solved is kind of part action, part tech, part subterfuge, with planting false memories for the replicators to read so that they don't know the real plan. Those sorts of beats, and then it gains an extra star for me because of Richard Dean Anderson's deep water swim, holding his breath for so long.
Yeah.
What did you think of The Return?
It's a really great episode. No, you're right. It's got all the parts, isn't it? It's got all the ingredients that you want, and I really like Woolsey in this as well. Like he has some cool moments, and later becomes obviously a very important character.
He's very realistic in this episode.
He's real, yeah, exactly. He's not a soldier, right? And he's in this kind of life or death situation, and and I think it shows O'Neill's great leadership as well, which is something that sometimes I think is hard to see because it's masked by the kind of charm and wit. But he's a leader, and really showcases it in this one.
Yeah, Collector Williams says watching O'Neill and Woolsey's dynamic is what made that episode for me.
Yeah, agreed.
Okay. We're
Okay,
coming
what we
down
got
to the end of
next?
the first half of the list. In the
Okay,
middle of the
I've
pack,
got
number 6.
okay, I'm not going to pronounce it right. Maybe I will. Tabula rasa. Tabula rasa?
Oh, Tabula Rasa, yeah.
Tabula
That's how I've
rasa.
heard it
There you go.
pronounced,
And
yeah,
yeah,
Tabula. This is
tabula. Fair
season
enough.
4?
This is one of the seasons for sure.
It is. It is in a season. Yeah, it's season 4,
It-
early on. This is when everybody wakes up without memories.
yeah, which is again a pattern I'm just discovering as we're talking about it now. But I like these little standalone things that could, you know, just feel like a cool sci-fi story. And like the opening of yeah, it's McKay, isn't it? When he's like tied, his arms tied to a chair, he's got to cut himself free. The video of himself saying "Find Taylor."
Yeah, this cold
It's
open is
just cool
brilliant.
and exciting. Yeah, it's just it's intense, and it's that kind of psychological thriller again that I think Stargate does really, really well. It doesn't do it enough, I also find, but again, you've got that paranoia, and there's that interesting feeling, right? If this was just a sci-fi movie, a standalone thing, it doesn't really work. But because we know these characters, we have, you know, the perspective of knowing that these guys are all friends and things like that. It's kind of, you get this sense of dread in your stomach because you're like, oh god, like, you know, don't mess this up. Please just, you know, believe, and
Yeah, figure it
um,
out.
yeah, and I find it really, really fun.
I love this episode. This is great. And True LXV says the same thing. I love this episode. That's a
Great
great one.
taste.
Next Generation did something similar in Conundrum, when everybody lost their memories, knowledge of who they are, because they were under attack. Right, the Enterprise was being kind of co-opted for an alien war. That's not what was going on here. It was a like a virus or something that they were trying to sort of
Yeah,
survive before it completely wiped out any hope of getting their memories back.
yeah, which is a cool spin on that. Yeah.
Navy A420, I have amnesia of this episode. Hey, it's time for a rewatch if you can't remember the
Yeah, that's
episode.
a real treat. I would
Yeah.
love to have amnesia of more episodes because it means I could watch them again for the first time.
There are seriously shows like that where it's, if I let enough years go by, hey, this is one of the advantages of being old and senile. If you let enough years go by, you can enjoy all your old favorites all over again. You
That's
just
so
can't remember
true.
what happened. Okay, number 6 for me is, let's see. Oh, I'm going to go with The Last Man. The 4th
Oh, interesting.
season finale.
I love that episode. That's what I'll say.
So this is another kind of unusual but kind of brilliant sci-fi story. The teaser is Shepard goes through the gate, headed back to Atlantis at the start of the episode, and instead of showing up in Atlantis when he expects to, he shows up, what is it, something like 40,000 years in the future. The ocean's gone, the people are gone, the city is full of sand, and he's got to figure out how to get home. And this is a classic Stargate time travel story with the wormhole passing too close to a solar flare. And so we have a recording made by an old Rodney McKay with a plan to get Shepard home with another wormhole slingshot.
I won't reveal where it is on my list, but it will be appearing at some point in the future.
Okay.
But I absolutely adore this episode. Again, for the same reasons. It's just one of those. Although you say that this isn't one that would be lost in a 10-season episode, a 10-episode season probably, because this was a season finale, right?
Yeah.
This was yeah, and I like the kind of weird kind of throwback in a way to 1969. Is it? What year is it they go back to in SG1? 69. Which obviously the same sort of thing happens, but 30 years, I guess, in the past, 30 or so years in the past, and then this one's like, yeah, like you say, like 40,000 years in the future, and like everything is different. I think it's such a cool kind of way to end the show or end that season, because it's just so different and so interesting, and we get to kind of see the development of all these characters in like a kind of fast forwarded way, which I always like when shows do that. I guess we got it in Unending as well in a funny way in SG1.
Yeah, in a different way, a sort of road not traveled what if story, because of course the conceit of this episode is a lot of it ends up being, you know, the Rodney holographic recording and Shepard. You get that fun dynamic of those two characters. That ends up being kind of the envelope for the storytelling in this episode, which is it's lots of flashbacks. Rodney's telling John the story of what happened to all their friends, what happened to Atlantis, what happened with Michael's attempt to take over the galaxy after he left, and because they didn't find Taylor, because Michael got a hold of Taylor and her unborn baby, he sort of is allowed to rise to power. So it's this flashback of obviously what ends up being an alternate reality, because spoiler alert, Shepard makes it back. Everything is fixed. This timeline doesn't happen. But yeah, we get those cool stories, right? We get Sam in command of the Phoenix.
You get to experience it. Yeah.
Todd and Ronan fighting alongside each other.
Yeah, it's really cool. I love these kind of what ifs in sci-fi, which you don't really get to have in other genres. I mean, when they're more grounded in reality, like other favorite shows, you can't really do this. And if they do this, it feels kind of like a cheat. Whereas sci-fi lets you just have your cake and eat it. You get to just enjoy these cool, interesting what if stories, without it dramatically changing the course of the show. I mean, of course, the rest of the show isn't set 40,000 years in the future with just Shepard. Although I'd probably watch that.
Yeah, I'd watch that. Cormac, I'm not going to be able to pronounce your whole username. Cormac says 48,000 years, by the way, reminds me of the Voyagers episode Timeless, which was one of my all-time favorite episodes of Voyager. That was Voyager's 100th episode, where they, you know, future versions of themselves had to fix a catastrophe and save the past.
Do you know, I've actually not seen any Star Trek outside of the Next Generation.
Okay. You're on the you're on an okay podcast for it. Don't go on a Star Trek podcast and tell them you haven't seen Voyager.
Fair enough. Yeah, I hear it's great.
Grant's Mountain Biker says to see how things could have been when Carter destroys 2 hive ships with her last breath. Yeah, Carter going out in a blaze of glory. Ronan and Todd going out in a blaze of glory. A lot of fun what if stories. And then it ends up being not a throwaway, because that timeline is overwritten, but kind of demonstrates how important the current storyline of the show is to find Taylor, right? We got to rescue Taylor and her baby from Michael. That's what the Kindred 2-parter had been about leading up to this. And this shows you what's at stake. If we can't rescue Taylor, if her baby falls into Michael's hands, this is what's at stake. He's going to get what he wants, and he's going to march over the rest of the Wraith and rule the galaxy.
Yeah. Great episode.
Okay, number 5.
You just mentioned it. It's the Kindred Part 2.
Okay. So we're on the same storyline.
We're on the same storyline, which is honestly a great storyline. I love everything they did around the kind of Michael stuff, to be honest. But what I love about this is justice for Beckett. We finally get Beckett back. I mean, we saw him at the end of part 1, right?
Beckett back.
What was his line? I can't remember his final line of what the bloody hell took you so long, or something like that, right? Which is
it's about bloody time. What took you so long? Yeah.
Which is just great for us watching, because we're like, what are you talking about? But
which
from his perspective,
the Sci-Fi Channel here in the US used in the teaser commercial ad spot.
Oh, really?
Yeah, they blew it. They spoiled Beckett's return for the teaser for part 1.
That's actually heartbreaking.
It's criminal.
That's such a shame. Yeah, that shouldn't be allowed.
It got people to tune in, but hey, it was the last line of the episode.
That's really cheeky. But yeah, I mean, as a big Beckett fan as well, we've not really spoken enough about Beckett's character yet, to be honest. But he he in many ways is like a real anchor and core and heart in that show. And it was devastating in Sunday when he, sadly meets his end. Um, but what a way to bring him back! Again, any reason that he comes back is fine with me, which is why this episode had to go in my list. Because again, if I go back and tie it to that nostalgic feeling I had watching the episode, getting to see him back with the crew made me so happy at the time.
Yeah.
Like I remember that feeling so well. It put such a big smile on my face. So that is that kind of personal reason, probably maybe outside of the episode a little bit, is why it's so high on my list. But I felt those feelings, so it's there.
Yeah, and part two spends a lot of its time with Beckett, with his return, and the team's trying to figure out, who is this guy? This apparently Michael cloned Carson. Who is this guy? Can we trust him? Is he really Carson? And McKay, I mean, for me as a viewer, McKay's line, as far as I'm concerned, you are my best friend back from the dead. That gave me as a viewer permission to sort of embrace this as a real Carson, true Carson.
Yeah, yeah, and it's God, it's really interesting, right? Because there's a bit of a cliche around shows bringing characters back from the dead sometimes, and like, is it going to be really hokey? Is it going to be really weird?
Yeah.
And I think the way they did it just made perfect sense. Like I totally bought that that Michael would have done that. I totally understood why he kept him around, and
Yeah.
totally understood the Beckett, like why he was kind of doing what he was doing. Like I bought the story, I bought his reaction, and then I guess when we talk before about some of the psychological thriller kind of episodes previously, like you kind of understand that paranoia. Like these guys have been living with the craziest things happening. They would be completely skeptical of that. They don't get gifted their friends back very often. So yeah, really, really cool episode.
Yeah, I appreciate Sunday for the excellent storytelling and performances. It's absolutely memorable. Spoiler alert, it's not on my top 10 list. I
Couldn't do it
was
either.
right. So I understand an episode like Meridian, which is a fantastically told story in SG1, resulted in a character leaving the show, a beloved character leaving the show. Um, I could kind of accept that a little bit more in my heart of hearts as a fan, because I knew that Michael wanted to leave. The actor chose to leave the show, and this was how they gave his character a fitting farewell. That wasn't the case with Sunday. Paul didn't want to get written off. Somebody just decided that he was going to get written off, that the show needed a shakeup or something like that. And so I appreciate Sunday for what it is, but it also kind of left me a little bit irked that they had done that. So that's part of why I love the Kindred so much is they didn't take very long. They undid what I regard as this sort of mistake.
Yeah, you couldn't have said it better, to be honest. That's exactly how I feel as well. I think in terms of, if you look at Sunday as an episode and the execution of it, it's fantastic. It's really well written. The
Yeah.
performances are incredible. That scene, that shot, I should say, of Beckett walking away and the flames engulfing him will live with me forever. It was really, really well done. But exact same thing. I think the kind of behind the scenes aspect of it just never sat fully right with me. Again, which is why I put the Kindred in there so high. And I think Paulie's a dear friend. He really proved to be a really important part of that show, because there was a real outcry when that
Yeah.
happened, and so much so that they rightly brought him back. And that's not to speak ill of Jewel, who was a brilliant part of the show as well when she came on. But yeah, really, what character Beckett was.
Yeah. The heart of the show, right? He's been called the heart of Atlantis. I think that's also what we titled one of our interviews with Paulie back in the day, was Hearts in Atlantis or something like that.
I
And
love
that's
that.
what the character was. Carson wore his heart on his sleeve, and we loved him for it. And the show wasn't the same without him. Good pick.
Yeah,
Good
very
pick.
true.
Okay, number 5. Let's see. I keep forgetting what I put on my list, so I'm just as excited to see as all you are. Okay. Number 5 for me is Tao of Rodney. Another one of
Oh,
those kind of, I think not lesser appreciated. I think a lot of people love this show, but it doesn't get talked about a lot. As a 4-star episode is one of the show's very best. But when you're talking about great ideas for season 3 was really clicking along, and when you talk about a great sci-fi idea that's executed really well as kind of a standalone character episode, this is Rodney getting superpowers. What did you think
yeah.
of the Tao of Rodney?
Well, again, I'm a McKay guy, so it probably won't surprise you to learn that this episode may be a little bit later on my list as well.
Okay, okay.
But yeah, it's brilliant, and I think I love anything that just really challenges characters. And I don't think there's a better way sometimes to challenge a character than to give them everything that they think they want, and then for them to realize that that comes with an immense cost. Um, and I thought it was just executed flawlessly with this episode. I think it's brilliant. I think David Hewlett's at his best as well.
Yeah, for sure. This is a fantastic David Hewlett episode. Uh, Obviously, he gets a lot to work with here. He gets a lot to play with. Um, Rodney is the episode starts with this kind of initial conceit that, oh, this is going to be kind of funny. This is going to be kind of lighthearted. Rodney gets superpowers, right? He's figuring out that he can read minds. He's got telekinesis. He's stealing people's donuts. But then it gets really serious, and it's a chance to explore these characters when we get to that beat, right? That Rodney's going to die. Rodney can't live like this. This is going to kill him. If only he can learn how to ascend, and then it becomes this weird science problem for Rodney. Can I, calculate how to ascend as a scientific endeavor? There's so many wonderful beats here. The beat of, uh, you know, Rodney and Ronan are oil and water. I felt like the writers had a tough time figuring out how to put the two of them in a room or in a scene together and have them even talk to each other, because they serve such different story purposes as such different personalities. But you put them here and you have, Rodney embraces Ronan. He asks, the scars on your back, are those important to you? And Ronan says no. He basically gives him the impression he'd rather be rid of them. And Rodney puts his arms around Ronan and hugs him and heals the scars left on his back by the Wraith. Those sorts of beats in this episode are just the sort of Atlantis character development at its best, as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, I completely agree. It's funny, isn't it? Sometimes some of the best episodes come from them just being in Atlantis and them just being with each other, and kind of just, you don't need to do much sometimes, and it sometimes does more. Yeah, this is a beautiful episode. You can only imagine David Hewlett getting the script for it and just being super excited to just have a load of fun, but then get some real meaty kind of acting parts, that he gets to sit and digest, and he nails it. This is a brilliant episode.
Yeah. And it also kind of pays off the conceit of Atlantis. We're going to get a spin-off series that's set in the city of the ancients, and we're going to explore it, find different buildings, different rooms, different parts of the city with different technology that hasn't been touched in millennia. This is it. We find a room in Atlantis that has this technology in it. We don't need to travel to another planet to get into trouble.
Yeah, that's so true. And for me, it's one of those cherry pick episodes as well. I'm typically the kind of guy who likes to watch start to finish, like a show on a rewatch. But if I am going to cherry pick certain episodes, this is like absolutely one of them. Like if I've just got time for one episode, this would definitely be one that I just flick to. And yeah, I wouldn't even consider a lot of the others on my top 10 list to be like that. Like sometimes I don't think I could watch The Kindred Part 2, for example, as just a random episode to watch. I want a bit more of the arc to get into that one. But this one is just a gem.
Good. Okay. Number 4. Now we're getting down to it.
Getting down to it. Okay, so I've gone for Satida.
Oh yeah. Good Ronin episode.
good Ronin episode. Good action. Uh, Good lore and backstory. It's just this is a meaty episode for me. This is like a bit of steak. This episode, like I just enjoy it. It's really fun, but also like sad and tragic. Like I say really fun for me because I like watching tragedies and dramas and that kind of thing. And obviously the action's fun, but um, yeah, I think Ronan can be guilty maybe sometimes of coming off a bit one note and a bit, he's the tough guy and that's kind of it. And I think this just paints so many more layers to him and so much more depth to him, and it it becomes a satisfying ending for us as an audience when he fights the what do you call it, the Uber Wraith?
Yeah,
Is
the
that what they
Uber
call it?
Wraith, which is a Dan Payne specialty.
Dan Fane specialty, yeah, with
Dan
the
Payne, sorry.
dope on a rope. Is that what they call it?
Say again?
Is it the dope on a rope? Is that what they call the stunt that he did at the very end when he gets shot by the
Oh yeah,
um
that giant ratchet pull. I don't know if it's got a
yeah,
nickname.
I think I remember him talking about it once. It was called like the dope on a rope or something
Dope
like
on a
that,
rope.
where
That's
he's the
good.
dope and the rope just pulls him all the
They
way
just
across,
yank
and
him.
he's yeah, this is a great fight scene as well.
I like Satita a
Who
lot.
do
Satita was on
yeah,
my initial list of, these are obviously going to be in my top 10. Satita was on there. And as I was going through these and trying to sort through, there's a good case to be made. I could replace a lot of these with Satita, but for me, it's probably 11 or 12.
that's fair. Yeah.
I love the direction. I love Rob Cooper's direction. I love the sort of hyper stylized shots of Ronan's flashbacks. He's remembering his family. He's remembering what happened when Satita was conquered.
Yeah, and it's got that horror to it again as well. Like they don't shy away in Stargate of um, showing that like war and the kind of conflicts these characters have been in before the show, like the stuff that's happened years and years ago, has like deep effects on these characters. Like it really yeah, it really does a great job of providing that depth.
Guys, what do you think in chat of the list so far? We're down to 7 more episodes. What do you hope shows up here before we're done? What's got to be in your top 3? For my number 4, let me see here. Number 4. My number 4 has got to be on your list somewhere. It's Midway.
It is on my list.
Another great crossover. This one is Ronan and Teal'c. And it's the sort of episode that almost writes itself, right? Because for years at this point, fans have been asking who would win in a fight, Teal'c or Ronan. And so they do it. They do the big knockdown, drag out fight scene with everybody cheering and watching and betting. And then Sam comes in and it of course ends in a draw. It has to end in a draw. But then it almost writes itself because it's paced through how these guys, butt their heads together in Atlantis. How these guys butt their heads together when they end up in 24 hours quarantine on the Midway space station. And then the Wraith are involved. The Wraith invade, and how do these two guys end up having to work together to save Earth? Once they get through to Stargate Command.
It's another great example, I think, of leadership on Teal'c's part, because look, Ronan's a soldier. He's going to follow the orders of Shepard when he's in his team. He understands that chain of command, but he needs to be checked a little bit. And
Yeah.
what better way to do that than have Teal'c come on and kind of humble him in a way? And he doesn't humble him just in the combat. He proves that he's his equal. At least I like to think they would still be there fighting if Sam didn't break them up. But
They'd still be there.
yeah, they would 100% still be there. But yeah, that kind of moment at the end of them kind of just understanding each other, and yes, Ronan says indeed, and it's great. It's really great.
They must have had so much fun working with the stunt and fight coordinators with James Bamford. Because, of course, Ronan's fighting style and Teal'c's fighting style are completely different. The Jaffa, right? The lessons that Teal'c learned from Braytak, there's a sort of a dance to their fighting style. Ronan is a little bit more grab 'em and punch 'em brutality, I feel like. So it's so much fun to watch these guys move together.
I love the idea of it being like when there's like a fight in school and suddenly everyone starts running and gathering around because, like, guys, did you hear these two are fighting? And it's just that you can imagine the chaos in Atlantis when they're like Ronan and Teal'c are fighting over there and everyone just rushing and getting their cash to place bets. It's a great episode.
Okay, here we are. Are you ready for the top 3?
Well, I feel like it's going to be a slightly anticlimactic top 3 for me now because we've spoken about all 3 of them.
Okay.
Because my number 3 is Midway.
Number 3. Okay, we rank these very close then. No surprises.
Yeah.
My number 3.
What's your number 3?
My number 3. Let me see. Let me find out here. Okay, another beautiful standalone episode that's a little off the beaten path. McKay and Mrs. Miller.
This almost made my list as well because it's so much fun. And again, I'm a McKay guy, but yeah, what a great choice.
Yeah, this is the introduction of David's sister, Kate Hewlett, playing Rodney's sister, Jeannie. Again, with another brilliant opening teaser by Martin Garrow. When Jeannie comes up with the mathematical proof, right? She's playing with her kid, or her daughter Madison is playing with the train set, and she gets this idea in her head that ends up being the bridge, the interdimensional bridge that they build in the episode, that brings in Rod from a parallel universe. But Jeannie then pulls out her kid's finger paints and does this mathematical proof, or gets a start on the mathematical proof in finger paints. And Sam comes in, recruits her, goes and gets McKay. McKay comes to Earth and has to eventually have a heart-to-heart because the two are largely estranged. So that even before we get to the Rod, right, alternate version of McKay from another universe, even before all that and the cool sci-fi conceit, there's just so much beautiful stuff going on in this episode.
Yeah, I completely agree. I think casting David's real sister as well is just an absolute 10 out of 10 move because their chemistry on screen and off screen is just hilarious. I don't think anyone gets David, just catches him out like Kate can. So yeah, it's brilliant.
Yeah, and it fleshes out Jeannie so much, right? Jeannie arrives a fully formed character. I solved your problem in my spare time with finger paints.
So good.
Okay, ready for number 2?
Yeah, it is Tower of Rodney.
Okay. Another great McKay episode.
Great McKay episode.
No
we spoke about
here.
It before, but it's just the emotional stuff in Stargate's what gets me. I love the action. I love the great sci-fi mysteries and questions that are asked as much as the next guy. But it's the emotional stuff of these characters that really sells it for me. So that's why it's so high for me.
Yeah, let's talk a little bit more about Ascension in this one. Somebody earlier in the chat, I'm looking for who it was. You brilliant, brilliant people talked about Rodney ascending. How interesting would it have been for this story? Or do you think it would have been all wrong if Rodney had actually ascended? Oh, here it is. It's Cormac. I think Rodney should have ascended. I do not say this out of dislike of him, but I think it would have been good for him to move on to the next phase of evolution for intelligent beings. Ascended Rodney, what do you think?
That's interesting. I never considered it too deeply, to be honest with you. I think selfishly, I would just not want to lose Rodney from the show. So there's that meta side of it. I'm sure a lot of the fellow Atlantis occupants would have very much liked for him to have ascended and not been bugging them so much anymore, specifically like Zelenka. But that is actually quite an interesting thing for his character to have done that. That would have been quite cool. Now that you mention it.
Yeah, only I would have been on board only if he would have come back, right? So ascend
Sure.
to sort of save his life, and then maybe it's an episode or two later he comes back and has a similar experience to Daniel, where he couldn't play by the others' rules and they kicked him out, and he can't remember anything about what it was like or what he learned.
It may even not be that he couldn't play by their rules. It may just be that they were sick of him.
They were just too annoyed by him. Yeah, that would fit. The episode just has such a lovely finale where, again, he's trying to solve ascension like it's a science problem. And Weir is giving him advice like, there is a spiritual component to this. You have to release your burden. And he almost gets there in the end. I don't know how you feel about the ascendometer. I've seen some criticisms of the ascendometer kind of measuring how close you get to ascension. But at least they held that little gap open, that there is a spiritual component. Like at least that last gap that he had to cross at the end.
Yeah, it kind of strikes the same not quite right chord with like midichlorians in Star Wars, right? Of like you've now made something mystical and spiritual, science based.
That's a perfect analogy.
Yeah, not quite for me.
Okay, where are we at here?
We're at your number 2, I believe.
You've got one pick left. I know what it is. But let's see my list. Number 2. Have we talked about my number 2 yet? Be All My Sins Remembered.
This is the one I should have put on my list. And when I was talking to you before and saying that there's some episodes that I think are just so great, but there's others that just have a more emotional connection to me personally. And this was one of the ones that missed it because of that. But it's a great, great episode.
Yeah, so this is the second part of really season 4. It doesn't get a mid-season 2-parter per se. I don't think of This Mortal Coil and Be All My Sins Remembered as a 2-parter, although the first story sets up the second story. It is more of a standalone. This is when we get Fran, the friendly replicator android, played by Michelle Morgan. And this is the climax. A lot of season 4, the first half of season 4, the storyline, of course, was the conflict with the replicators and working together with Todd and the Wraith. This is when Todd comes back and gets his name, is in the first half of season 4. And this is the big battle. This is the Battle of Asuris that ends the conflict and destroys, quote unquote, destroys the replicators once and for all. Until they come back.
Gotta love a sci-fi show, right? Is this where, so it's Todd is in it, right? But it's is it not forgetting his name, Christopher
Heyerdahl?
Yeah, he does the voice but not the body in this one. Is that
there's one or two episodes where Chris was not available, and so they had another actor perform the character, and then he did the voiceover. I don't know if it was this one. That's a great question. Let's see. Did my credits say?
One of those weird bits of trivia that's just stuck to me. I may have attached it to the wrong episode though. But yeah, no, this is a really, really cool episode for sure. I'm sure people in the comments
he's credited as voice of Wraith.
Oh, there you go. Voice of. Oh yeah, because he's not named in this one yet, is he?
Todd might have gotten his name by now. So Todd comes back in, I want to say, the Seer, 3 episodes earlier, which is when he's working with Rodney and maybe Zelenka in the Atlantis lab. And that was his first return after his introduction in Common Ground. I think that's where he got his name.
Yeah, you might be right.
I
trust your memory over mine.
It's been a while. I used to be a lot better at this, and I could dance circles around David because I had just rewatched the show with my kids, but now it's been a few more years, so it's all sliding out the back of my head again.
You know what? I've spent all day planning this list for today, and it's got me so excited to rewatch the show.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah. There's a lot of
so
these I
I'm,
want to
I'm
go back
definitely
and watch.
gonna, yeah, and I'm not gonna be able to cherry pick. I'm gonna have to just go through and rewatch start to finish all of Atlantis. And then when you do that, inevitably you start thinking, oh, should I just watch SG1 as well? And then, especially when the crossovers start happening a bit more frequently, you're like, oh, maybe I should. And then, yeah, that's my next few months gone.
Good, good. There you go. Looking at the chat here, what do you guys think? Nick Kiddo, the replicator ships were nerfed. They should have held stronger for Lantean warship. The Lantean class warships. I agree. The battle is spectacular. This is I think the best space battle visual effects that Stargate ever did. With the Battle of Osiris, right? We got Wraith ships, we've got ancient warships, we've got the replicator warships, we've got the human ships, Daedalus and Apollo. It's
What year would this episode have come out?
This was 2008.
2008. Wow. So the context of that, looking that good back then, is actually really remarkable, isn't it?
Yeah, but this makes it so high on my all-time list, not just because of the visual effects, not just because it's the climax of a long-running story arc, but it also has really interesting science fiction and character beats. One of the main reasons I love this episode is because of Fran, to be honest. Michelle Morgan's performance is fantastic. The character is so unique. We've never had build your own replicator and program her to go in and create what is essentially genocide, if you at least recognize that the replicators have the potential of sentience.
Yeah.
I mean, Neum was pretty nice for a while until his code got rewritten. But and I've made this criticism before. The only reason that Be All My Sins Remembered is a fantastic episode and not one of the greatest episodes of science fiction of all time in my book is because they didn't spend more time with sort of working through the ethical issues, the ethical dilemma of using Fran to destroy her people.
Yeah, there's a bit of that's probably a criticism of a few different plot lines in Atlantis, to be honest. If I'm stepping back from my absolute unadulterated love of the show,
Sure,
there's probably a few things where they maybe could have lent in a little bit more on, again, some of the stuff with like Michael. But yeah, same here.
yeah, and it's there's a lot going on here. It probably would have had to be split into another episode to really have the an extended ethical conundrum episode like TNG's The Measure of a Man or Iborg. That would have been remarkable. But
Yeah,
as it stands, this episode is fantastic.
completely agreed. Did you know what my number one is? Do you remember?
I now that we're down here and I've seen what number 2 through 10 is, I absolutely am convinced that our number 1 episode is the same.
Oh,
You ready to reveal?
It's not the same.
It's not the same. Okay. What's your number 1 out of 100 episodes of Stargate Atlantis? Your number 1 pick.
It's already on your list.
Oh, that's right. You told me it's already on my list.
Yeah, it's The Last Man.
Good choice.
It's like we were saying before, that the pattern for me, I think it probably marries it up. In fact, looking at my list, it probably captures a little bit of all the things that I've started to identify that I like the most. It feels like a great standalone sci-fi story. It's got emotional depth and really plays on the emotional character beats, but it's also pushes the story forward. It's a great season finale. It's like an important episode, and I truly love those kind of like what ifs, path not followed. Like it's a great episode. We spoke about it a lot before, so I won't just retread all the same ground. But I really really love that
We do,
episode.
yeah. I can't argue with that pick because it's such a strong all around episode. Not just a good finale, not just for what it does for demonstrating the importance of rescuing Taylor for the story arc, but it's just there's so much fun stuff in here.
It's like a movie.
The
It's honestly some
flashbacks, yeah.
episodes. Yeah, it just feels like it could be a movie. If they could just add 90 minutes or so, sorry, they could add 30 minutes or so to that, 30, 40 minutes, and it would just be a great movie.
Mm-hmm. Carlinator 92, favorite Todd line. Okay, what episode is this from? His favorite Todd line is when he says something like, "What would we do? Who would we be?" When Keller says that he could be free from feeding on humans. Todd's having that sort of existential crisis when he's agreed to go into, I think, the the gene therapy, Keller's gene therapy, to remove the need to feed on humans. And he's sort of contemplating what it means to be a wraith at that point. Is that in Be All
Yeah,
My
that's
Sins
brilliant.
Remembered, or in
The,
no, because the Gene storyline's in season 5, right? So that's First Contact
yeah,
when
well,
he
it
shows
comes
up.
back, doesn't it? Yeah,
Yeah, somewhere in there. I agree. That's one of my favorite Todd moments, was when he gets really introspective like that.
yeah, agreed.
Okay, well then now, do you know what my all-time favorite episode is?
I'm guessing the shrine.
Shocked it's not in your top 10. As a McKay fan.
Yeah,
As a McKay
I know.
fan. My
I know.
brother.
It's like I was saying earlier. It's like if I was to choose the best episodes, that's easily on there. But it's the all the different personal roots and ties I have to other ones. But yeah,
Yeah.
fantastic episode.
Yeah. I get it. The episodes that vibe with you, that you want to go back and watch. Now, I'll go back and watch The Shrine all the time, but I gotta be in the mood for it, because I gotta know it's gonna beat me up. It's gonna beat up my soul. I'm gonna be whimpering in the corner. I cry, man, especially since I had kids. I cry so easily at TV shows and commercials. You're a new father, right?
Yeah, I'm a new father,
It's
which
gonna
means it's
happen.
probably a bad idea for me to watch that.
So The Shrine is season 5. David Hewlett's tour de force, written by Brad Wright. Once again, guest starring Kate Hewlett as his sister Jeannie. This is Flowers for Algernon. This is McKay slowly losing his memories and his sense of self with this what turns out to be an infection that the people of the Pegasus Galaxy refer to as a second childhood.
It's just devastating. That I honestly struggle with stuff like this. It not in a I find it bad, like in a I find it so hard to watch. It really
Yeah.
plays at some of my deepest fears.
Yeah.
But it is incredible, and
Traumatizing.
it's some of the best acting in the whole show for me.
Yeah, absolutely. There's also very touching, moving behind the scenes on this. I think Brad has told the story of how he had a personal inspiration for writing this, and was present on the scene watching David's performances and tearing up, because David just knocks this out of the park. This is David Hewlett gets to do lots of kinds of acting on Stargate, right? He gets to play snarky, he gets to play surly, he gets to play genius, he gets to play heroic. Here he's family, and he's at his absolute most vulnerable. And the way the story is told, right, he's recorded himself at different parts of his deterioration, and we get to see these snippets of his recording and his struggling as a brilliant person, struggling with losing his mind. Hard to remember the names of simple everyday things. It's told in such a brilliant way. And then it's got one of my favorite Keller moments, to be honest. Keller, I felt like I needed another season with Dr. Keller to really fall in love with her
Agreed.
character. But the end of the shrine, when she realizes The shrine, the energy from the shrine is causing this infection, which has grown now to like a macro virus inside of Rodney. She's cut open his head and has the ability to get it out and is about to grab it. And she turns to Ronan and says, Ronan, we're going to need that gun. That is one of
That's
my
so cool.
all-time favorite Keller moments. Still gives me chills. Because then suddenly it's the team, right? It's the team rescuing their friend.
I can't believe I put Phantoms above the Shrine now that we're talking about it again. But at the same time, I'm glad we got to speak about Phantoms because it's an
Yeah.
episode that people don't speak about that much. So
Yeah, and hey, if we do this same thing in 6 months and I don't go back and look at my list, I'm probably at least 20% of it is different.
yes, so true. Which is a testament to just a great show, right?
Yeah. Testament to what a great show it is. Only 100 episodes, but so many that were really tough to not have on this list.
Yeah, 100%.
Guys, what do you think in the chat? What are your top 3, top 5, top 10 episodes? Let us know in the chat or post it in the comments. These are ours, at least for today. Tommy, thanks for being here and doing this.
My pleasure. Thank you so much for having me.
I got a package to open here. If you'll bear with me for a second.
I can't wait to see it.
Okay. I have been waiting, of course, like many Stargate fans, been waiting for Master Replicas to actually ship the stuff that we pre-ordered. And I finally got, let me turn the light on. Here, talk to the crowd.
Hello, crowd. How are you? I can't really see your comments from here, so just keep commenting away, and I'll pretend to read them, and I might nod along as if I am agreeing or disagreeing with you. Ah. Oh, I don't know about that. That's a really good point. I wonder how long I'll be vamping for before Darren gets the light sorted.
Oh, so I'm just enjoying you. This is
Oh,
expertly
there we
done.
go.
Expertly done. Okay. Today we're opening Destiny.
Oh my god.
I've only seen one other person on Reddit post pictures of this. This boy has finally showed up. This was pre-ordered last fall, and it got delayed by a couple months. And it's finally here, and I got a notification that my Destiny Stargate has shipped, and that my Asuran cruiser model has shipped. So Master Replicas is finally catching up with all these models. Those are going to be here soon. And we'll do quick review videos here on the channel. But I wanted to open this with all you guys and just experience the beauty that is Destiny.
Okay, oh my god, look at the detail.
Crack this open. I'm also getting B-roll by doing the unboxing on the live stream. I'm getting free B-roll to use in my video. Okay, here we go. Stargate Universe Destiny. Stand. To the stand.
It's a great size.
Yeah, it's a really nice size. I wouldn't want it to be any smaller, but it's so long it would be pretty impractical if it was any bigger. Impractical to display on my shelf. I think it's 8 and maybe 8¼ inches length.
What's the weight of it like?
It's got a good weight to it. It doesn't feel like cheap hollow plastic. Master Replicas has been doing a good job with a lot of their models. They use plastic and this material they call polystone. So yeah, it's got a good weight to it. Nice detail. They really worked hard to get good detail here, obviously, because there's so much going on the surface of the ship.
Yeah.
Let me get my mic back over here.
That's so cool.
Coloring also looks pretty good. It's kind of a bronze brown. You've got, let's see, there's the shuttles are supposed to be on here. So Where are the shuttles? Guys, help me out. Where are the shuttles docked? Supposed to be dead center? Thought from the pictures that one or both of the shuttles were on here. Now I'm having a hard time playing Spot the Shuttle. Well, yeah, it's real beautiful. Kind of 3 fins along the bottom here. Of course, the advantage that they have with this model as opposed to some of the older ships is they had reference material. They had the original CG files that were provided by MGM.
Right.
So they
That's
could
cool.
get the detail exact, as opposed to something like Ra's pyramid ship, where they had an artist eyeball it from the movie and recreate it as best they could.
I love stories like that, like how they recreated the kawoosh, right? Of just guessing how much pressure they needed to put in the water to get the same sort of shape to it. Bit trial and error.
Yeah. Raj
That's
Luthra says, I
stunning.
do not see the shuttles. Collector Williams says, right in the middle. One of them is supposed to be docked right in the middle right there, isn't it? I thought that from the preview photos that it had... Oh, right in the middle right there. Little shuttle. There's one.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah.
Little guy. Okay, we found one. It's like Where's Waldo? If there's another one on here, it's shaped like that.
See one.
Okay. Profile is beautiful. This one's definitely going to be on display. And, of course, for those of you who might be new to Stargate Universe, the design of Destiny is shaped like a chevron. Let's see how this fits in the stand. The stands can be kind of hit or miss. Let's see. There's no way to do this wrong, I hope. There. Works.
That's so cool.
It's stable. It doesn't rock. That's what I want to see.
I like that it has it at a bit of an angle as well in that.
Yeah, it kind of holds it up a bit. I've noticed they do this. I've got a bunch of Star Trek models from Eagle Moss that Master Replicas took over, and they do the same thing. They're pointed up slightly, which I think makes it display really nicely.
Yeah, yeah.
And of course, I'm like a little kid, so now I have to resist just like flying this around the backyard. Yep. I'm really pleased with that. That turned out really great.
That is really cool. Oh, I've just been revealed as how close I was to my screen.
Yeah, leaning in. I got my light, my extra light. Shine. All right, Tommy. Thank you again for being here. Thanks for doing the Atlantis countdown with me. That was a ton of fun.
It was a pleasure. Thank you so much for having me.
Hopefully we'll have an opportunity to have you back. We can talk more Atlantis, or maybe you'll want to do SG1 next time. We should do like a tier list for Atlantis characters. Like,
ooh, good idea. Maybe. I like that. Yeah. I like that.
All right, guys. Thanks for hanging out with us here, talking Stargate Live today on a Friday. Coming up, I don't have a calendar ready to show you because we're still finalizing the guests for March, but the plan is to live stream every Friday in March around 2 p.m. Pacific time, 5 p.m. Eastern, 10 p.m. British Standard Time. Although we're coming up on the time change. We're going to spring forward here in the U.S., and so check your local listings because the time's going to get off. We're right now Tommy's 8 hours ahead of me, and then there's going to be a couple of weeks, I think, where he's only 7 hours ahead of me. So British time is going to be different for a couple of weeks. I appreciate you guys. I appreciate you being here. Thank you for the mods who were able to be here with us today. Suns and Shadows, Cast, Raj Luthra, anybody else from the mod team who has popped into the chat that I didn't miss, I apologize. And a big thanks to our channel members. You guys support the channel above and beyond, and I appreciate it so much. You just saw the big video that I've been working on since October, which was the 4 great races. If you haven't watched the video yet, stop what you're doing right now, go watch the video. It's doing really great. It's got over 250,000 views so far after coming out last week. I was working on that when the new Stargate show was announced, so I just set it aside, and we've been doing all the kind of stuff around the new Stargate show, all the live streams. We had a 2-hour interview with Martin Garrow back in December, and then we had the holiday break. So it was really nice to get back to that big video, which took a lot of writing and research and editing, and finally get that one out across the finish line. So there's more stuff coming up. I'm going to do some more news videos. I've got the SG1 season 6 recap is written and ready to record. So expect that one here in the next couple of weeks. And then some other fun ideas that are coming up here, as well as the work over on the website. Check out gateworld.net. Thank you guys for being here. Thanks for chatting with us. Oh yeah, and these models, as the models roll in, we'll also do some quick reviews for the Master Replicas models. Look for links to everything that we talked about in the show notes in the YouTube video description. You can find links to GateWorld's Atlantis episode guide. Hey, go through 100 episodes of Atlantis, pick your top 10 favorite, or your top 5, or your top 3, and post it in the comments. Tell us what is the best of the best of Atlantis in your eyes. Thanks, everybody, and we'll see you next time, next Friday, for the live stream. We're out.